Hello, and in this video I'm going to look at part 3, talking about homes. These questions would follow on from the part 2 topic, describe your dream home. And it's very important that in part 3 you structure your answer. And in this video I'm going to look at a 3-part way of structuring your answer. So you have a starter, a main idea, and extra information. I always like to think of this a bit like a meal. So you've got your starter, your main course, and your pudding, which finishes it all off. So let's take a look at how you can do this in part 3. So here is a part 3 question from this topic. What's the difference between people's living habits nowadays compared with the past? It seems to me that there has been a move from rural areas to urban areas. The main reason for this is work. There is a lot of unemployment in rural areas, whereas it is much easier to find a job in a major city. So you can see there are 3 parts to my answer. I've got my starter, and what I mean by starter is how you start your answer. A lot of IELTS candidates just start it with I think. This is not complex enough. Make sure you have lots of other sentence starters to start your answer. Then my main idea, it's about the move from rural areas, that's the countryside, to urban areas, towns or cities, but I've used complex language to describe this. And then I've highlighted the reason, I've said why. I cannot just stop there, that's not enough, that's like a part 1 type answer. And I've highlighted it's because of unemployment in rural areas. But I haven't just repeated urban areas, I've used a major city instead of saying urban areas. So all the time you're looking to vary your vocabulary, change the words, use lots of different words in your answer. So now let's take a look at some more model answers connected to this topic. Do you think homes in the future will be the same as they are now? In my view, absolutely not. One of the major reasons for this is the mass migration to urban areas. This has led to a shortage of housing. One example that springs to mind is my hometown. There is a lack of housing. Therefore, more skyscrapers have been built to accommodate people. There are fewer individual homes with private gardens and more people living in high-rise buildings. So let's take a look. Have we got our 3 parts? Well, we've got our sentence starter. In my view, absolutely not, which is much better than no or I don't think so. Then we've got our main idea, and instead of just saying because or this is because, one of the major reasons for this is. And finally, we've got the extra information, the example to support the main idea. One example that springs to mind is, a note in that collocation to spring to mind, we don't use my. I hear a lot of non-native speakers who say that springs to my mind. We just say it springs to mind. And if you also look at the vocabulary here, we've got mass migration. This means lots of people moving from one area to another area. A shortage, meaning there are not enough of them. A lack of, this also means there's not enough of them. Skyscrapers, high-rise buildings, these are synonyms, words with the same meaning. And we've also got some passive grammar in there, have been built. So it's like a very little paragraph in an essay, it's got structure and it's got complex vocabulary. So let's take a look at another question from this topic. What are the disadvantages of living in an apartment? It would seem to me that noise is the major thing that people have to deal with when residing in an apartment. The key issue here is bad neighbours. A prime example of this would be when the occupants downstairs have a party. Dealing with an issue such as this is tricky because if you speak to your neighbours, it might exacerbate the problem. So here is our sentence starter. It would seem to me that, again, much better than, I think. The key issue here is, this is where you're introducing your main idea. And I'm saying the key issue. This is a good collocation with issue, and it means the main issue. And then we've got the extra information to support this. So you're giving an example to support this issue, to support your main idea. And again, another fantastic collocation. A prime example of this would be, and that means a perfect example. Also got some very good vocabulary. Residing. The verb to reside means to live. Occupants. This is another way of saying residents, people who live in an apartment or house. Tricky. This is a great word because you can use it in all kinds of sentences about all kinds of topics, and it means it's difficult. And finally, a fantastic collocation for writing and speaking. To exacerbate the problem. Make sure you learn how to spell it correctly if you're going to use it in writing. Great for lots of Task 2 essays, both general and academic. To exacerbate a problem means to make it worse. So you can see how that would be useful in lots of answers. So here are some more examples that you could use. So in terms of sentence starters, basically, I feel that. I'm guessing you could say that. In my view, it would seem to me that. And for your main ideas, the key issue here is. One of the major reasons for this is. This is due to. Due to means because of. This is essentially because. That means this is mainly because. And to add some extra information, one example that springs to mind is, one such example of this would be, probably the best example I can think of regarding this is. So make sure that you have a list of these before you go into the IELTS exam and go through them, because when you have your structure, your framework, it will make answering these very tricky Part 3 questions much easier. Thanks for watching.